Welcome back guys, it's time to break a new game. I've been secretly playing Diablo 4 for over 500 hours and I finally reached a point with my rapid fire build that simply beats everything you've ever seen before. We will have a 2 million native rapid fire shot. And you can achieve that totally without the use of any combo points. We are not using any seasonal content, no Malinak hearts, no barber, and we are not using the bullshit that doesn't work anyway. In fact, this build will deal so much damage that we are actually wiping the floor with combo points. Seriously, who needs combo points if we are already dealing over 18,000 damage with every shot of our rapid fire anyway? We will deal 4 times more damage, and this build can be done in any realm because we don't use any of those seasonal content to do this. Of course we will use all the known stuff that is confirmed to be working well, but we will also use so much new stuff that this build will be nothing short than a complete revolution how ranged rogues are actually made. We will use a completely new Paragon board layout, we will use new aspects and other things you have never seen before. So stay tuned and make sure you don't miss any second of this video. The first thing we have to talk about is crowd control, because rapid fire will automatically crowd control all the enemies it hits, because it will knock back your enemies. And knockback is a form of crowd control. That means every enemy you have hit at least once will be automatically knocked back, and all the crowd control damage from your Paragon board and from all your abilities and perks will be applied to these enemies. So focusing on crowd control very early on should be one of your major focuses, aside of course from getting the exploit glyph and anything else. I picked the sheep shot board actually as my second board after the starter one, which has many reasons which I will show to you later. The second new thing I have to show you is the frostbite aspect. The frostbite aspect consists of 2 separately working aspects. They don't rely on each other. That means you never have to throw or use any grenades. This aspect will permanently give you its written damage to all your frozen enemies. Frostbite will actually multiply your whole critical damage for all your enemies which are frozen. And multiplying one single bucket means that you will actually multiply your whole damage. So Frostbite is basically adding an additional multiplier to your entire damage. And if you combine this with Frigid Finesse, your damage will just skyrocket. Volatile Shadows is in my opinion a very underrated aspect, since it works like a mini Doombringer explosion, applying shadow damage and vulnerability to all your surrounding enemies whenever you get hit. It actually works like Thorns, makes everyone vulnerable and doesn't even need any lucky hit chance like the Doombringer. So it basically works every time and not just once in a while. The Volatile Shadows will also explode 10 times more often than the Unstable Embowments, which will only give you an explosion when you cast your skill. And since you can also refill your Dark Shrouds automatically, there will be a constant set of explosions every second when you stand in a mob of enemies. Another really crazy aspect that is completely overpowered is the aspect of Inner Calm. Inner Calm gives you 10% more damage every second you stand still. And since you will stand still automatically when firing your rapid shot, you will always get at least the first rank even within your first shot. And if you fire a second shot, you will get 20%. If you fire a third shot, you will get the full 30% damage increase. And you can also freely turn around and shoot into any direction without interrupting this aspect. You can even activate your death trap, casting your embowments, and shoot everyone. This aspect will always be active as long as you don't move your position. And since it also multiplies a whole damage bucket, which is your base damage by 30%, that means similarly to the Frostbite aspect, this aspect also multiplies your entire damage by 30%. There's also a lot of confusion about the aspect of repeating. This aspect is extremely bad with a low value and if you don't use it on your two-handed weapon, but it will be extremely powerful and extremely godlike if you have it on your two-handed weapon with at least 80 or 90%. This has to do with probabilities of failing to repeat to another enemy. At around 50% you will only have a 1-to-1 chance to hit another enemy. That means 50% chance you hit one more or 50% chance you don't. But if you have an 80% chance, you have a 4-to-1 chance to hit another enemy. That means you can hit 4 additional enemies on average. And with 90% chance, the chance to fail is only 10%. That means you will on average hit over 9 enemies before it fails to hit another one. So using the aspect of repeating on any of your normal items is entirely useless. But if you use it with a roll of at least 80 or 90% on your two-handed weapon, it is an absolute godlike ability. This will hit and melt an entire group of enemies extremely quickly. The skills I decided to use for this build are Death Trap, Dark Shroud, then Shadow and Ice Imbuement, then Concealment to get you out of tough situations, and Rapid Fire, which we will basically use for everything else. Of course, you can also additionally use Puncture or replace Concealment or Dark Shroud with Puncture, but you really don't have to. You should always try to use your Shadow Imbuement and normal Rapid Fire shots to normal and weaker groups of enemies, and save the Ice Imbuement to melt the elites. The Death Trap can also be used additionally in two ways. Of course, you can use it to kill larger mobs of enemies quickly as well, but you can also use it to refill your Ice Imbuement, which is really helpful. I normally use 2 Ice Imbuement shots, fire my Death Trap, and then I can fire another 2 Ice Imbuement shots, and this is most of the time enough to kill even a bigger group of elite enemies. With this build you will be able to speedrun any Nightmare dungeon up to tier 70 very easily and very quickly and efficiently. However, between 70 and 80 you should try to make your build a bit more tanky, but there are several options to do that. But now let's finally check out the build, guys. I will upload this to a build website soon and post the link in the description. In the meantime, you can also decide to become a member, subscribe and like this video, or check out our Discord server. The current stats are 4800 attack, 7300 armor and 10,000 life. At this moment we have Precision, Inner Calm and Dark Shroud being active, with a maximum stack of 5 on Precision. That means we will get over 395% critical damage, but the reason I show you this is it is not only multiplying your critical damage, it is also multiplying your vulnerability. Normally we should only have 241% vulnerability, but we actually have 272% when we have a maximum stack of Precision. That is because Precision is not only giving you an increase in your critical damage, it also gives you 4% per stack on crit chance and 2.5% per stack on your vulnerable damage. If you multiply 241.3 with 1.125, you will actually get the displayed 272%. This just makes Precision even more OP than it already is. And the other thing I have to show you is Inner Calm. Inner Calm is actually multiplying your all damage value, and all damage is affecting all your skills. So normally we should have only 120%, but if we multiply this with 1.3, we will get the displayed 186%, because we have a maximum stack of Inner Calm active. We also have over 288% damage versus crowd control, we have over 137% damage versus healthy enemies, and then we have the skill damage bucket here at the bottom. Damage with core, damage with marksman and damage with boots, including all damage, will all be added directly to your skill. These 4 values are added together and create the number in your skill sheet. The imbuement is not added because it only gives you a temporary boost when active, but the other ones directly affect your numbers. That being said, let's check out the items and aspects. On our helmet we have the ranks for Shadow Imbuement. Ideally you should go for 4, I only got 3 sadly, so I have to reroll this in the future. 4 ranks on Cold Imbuement basically only reduces the amount of projectiles to freeze your enemies, but that really helps you a lot. Then of course total armor and health on kill. Definitely don't waste any slot here on your helmet on cooldown. 6 or 7% cooldown won't change anything in your build, but life on kill will dramatically improve your survivability. 200 life on kill will easily give you thousands of life per second if you kill larger groups of enemies. It is way better to have at least one of these perks instead of using siphoning strikes or instead of using cooldown. We also use the enshrouding aspect for a 4% additional damage reduction per active Dark Shroud. Of course we only get this for the additional damage reduction, which is a 20% value in total if you have 5 active. The torso has the usual damage reduction on close and distant enemies, normal damage reduction and total armor, and I got a max roll for barrier on it. On the gauntlets, of course, we have 4 ranks of Rapid Fire, Lucky Hit chance, Critical Strike chance, and then I got critical damage with boot skills, which is actually not bad. I actually wanted to get attack speed, but we can also get the attack speed from our aspect. The pants, of course, has the same stats as the torso, damage reduction on close and distant, total armor, and a normal damage reduction, and here I used the Perfect Disobedience aspect to give me over 30% additional armor. The reason I used it here and not on the amulet is because on the amulet we will use Frostbite. The boots are the first item, which is actually not perfect, but I definitely recommend you to get movement speed, energy cost reduction, and get the Audacity aspect. Because Audacity will daze your enemies, it has only a 20-second cooldown, and any enemy that is dazed actually doesn't attack you, so it also increases your survivability. The Shrine buff is actually not a bad perk, but I definitely don't need the strength. You should look for damage reduction while injured or movement speed after killing elites. For the two-handed weapon, of course, you have to use a crossbow for the vulnerability, get vulnerability, critical damage, and ideally also core damage. I don't have core damage yet, I only have damage to close, but that is also okay. Definitely make sure to get a very high roll on your repeating aspect. It must be at least over 80% to have a significant impact on your gameplay. The one-handed weapons will be very similar. We will go for swords with vulnerability, critical damage, and then ideally also core damage or critical damage with imbued. On our first sword we have the inner calm with 10% increased damage when standing still, and on the second sword we have the 40% increased potency against vulnerable enemies, basically with the same stats, vulnerability, critical damage, and if you have to increase your base stats, then this is also the perfect place to squeeze in one of the all stats perks. Then we have a perfect ring here with max life, critical damage, vulnerability and crit chance, and with the Edge Masters aspect. The second ring is sadly not so perfect. We have critical damage, critical chance, max life, and then I only got damage to close instead of vulnerability damage. But it's actually not entirely terrible and I can still reroll this in the future. I placed the volatile shadows aspect here for the infinite dark shroud explosions. However, if you don't like to use that, then this is also a spot where you could place frostbite and then you can use disobedience on your amulet. On the amulet, of course, I have frostbite at the moment for a total damage increase of up to 38% if you get a max roll. I only got a roll of 35%, but that was pretty decent. The perks on the amulet should definitely include 3 ranks of exploit. 3 ranks of exploit is actually way better than additional ranks of frigid finesse. If you have 6 ranks of exploit, you will have another 36% damage increase for your entire damage. But whatever you do with your amulet, exploit ranks, damage reduction to close and armor are must-haves for your amulet. I already have another amulet that is perfect, but I currently engraved the Dark Shroud replacement on it with a max roll, which took me over a week to get, so I don't want to ruin it, but that is how a perfect amulet should look like. For the specializations, of course, we don't use combo points, we don't use inner sight, we go for preparation. Because preparation will dramatically reduce the cooldown of our death trap, and death trap can be used to instantly reuse ice or shadow imbuement. In the skill tree, of course, you should use puncture, but you don't really have to use it at all, and I didn't even use it in my abilities. If you don't want to use puncture, you can remove the third point and use it somewhere else. Of course, we get a maximum stack of rapid fire to have 9 ranks in total and bring it over 18,000 damage, and then we go for the improved rapid fire, because the advanced rapid fire is actually not working. It doesn't give you any damage, it is not triggered, it is simply bugged at this state. If we activate this and try to evade our enemy's attacks, we should get a 30% damage increase for our entire critical damage. But that is simply not happening. No matter how often I try to evade, there is simply no icon that shows us that advanced rapid fire is active. And there is also no damage increase. If it would actually do what it says, it would be a similar damage increase than what you get from frostbite. Because multiplying an entire damage bucket, which is your critical damage, would mean you multiply your entire damage output by 30%. And that is simply not happening. There's no icon, there's no damage increase. So definitely don't use it until advanced rapid fire is officially fixed. Instead go for sturdy, which is really good, but another ability that is totally useless are siphoning strikes, especially when you have an ability that has a very low lucky hit chance. Siphoning strike will simply never trigger and never heal you. Instead, just simply go for 1 perk for heal on kill, like we did on our helmet. 200 heal on kill will be just infinitely better than using siphoning strikes. You should rather spend your points on something more useful, for example the movement speed. We'll also get 3 ranks of weapon mastery of course and 3 ranks of concussive to increase our critical chance, especially because rapid fire automatically knocks back enemies, so that is really useful. Then we go for 3 points here into Dark Shroud to get the enhanced Dark Shroud for increased crit chance, and also 1 point here on concealment. And then very important, get a maximum rank of exploit. Exploit is incredibly crazy. Of course malice is also really good, but it has a much lower multiplier. Then drop as much points into shadow imbuement and make everyone vulnerable from the explosion. And don't forget consuming shadows, which will be your main source of energy refill. Of course we will go for the enhanced cold imbuement and mixed cold imbuement, and also drop a maximum stack of frigid finesse. Frigid finesse is extremely crazy, and if you combine this with frostbite you will get these insanely crazy damage numbers. And of course don't forget precision imbuement for your increased crit chance. Then of course we will also get a fully upgraded death trap, and we will also drop 2 points into aftermath. So in case you are low on energy, you can also use death trap as a refill or simply reset your imbuments, and you will have enough energy to instantly use your imbuments. Then of course we will get precision for our passive ability. As I already explained, this is not only increasing your critical damage, it also increases your crit chance and your vulnerable damage. The Paragon board is something I'm really proud about because it is something that is really close to absolute perfection. On the first board you should definitely pick the Ranger node because that is what will maximize your damage for your skill. All the 92% will directly flow into your rapid fire skill. Maxing out the Ranger glyph is more important than maxing out the combat glyph, because critical damage is already sky high, whereas your skill bucket is still quite low. The second board should be the sheepshot board, because the sheepshot board has a very unique design which allows us to exit to both sides very easily. In the final layout you should actually place the control glyph into this board. However, if you are just starting out with Paragon, you should place either exploit in your first or second board. The exit on the right side will be your last and final board, so you should first go to the left. The next board will be the exploit weakness board, where we will put the combat glyph, but we won't fully max it out. We will only go for 77%. The next one will be cunning stratagem, where we max out our core skill nodes. Core skill, similar to marksman skill, will directly influence your rapid fire damage. So definitely pick up these nodes. It will be a horrible mistake if you skip these nodes. Here will be the best place to put the exploit glyph later on. Of course, if you want to, you can also swap these boards around. The last board in this line will be the no witness board, where we'll get 50% damage to healthy enemies and a whopping 45% base damage. This value is more than doubled by using the efficiency glyph, which is actually a very smart move because it will simply complete by itself. It will more than double the intelligence from this node, and you just need one more intelligence node to complete the second requirement, which will also unlock an additional 20% booster to all our imbuement skills. Increasing your all damage is really important because it gives you more damage than actually going for turf or anything else. All damage will directly influence your core skills. Similarly to all the core skill nodes, it will directly go into your rapid fire skill. Every 25% of all damage, core damage or marksman damage will add another 1000 damage to the base value of your rapid fire. The last and final board will be added eastward to the cheap shot board, gets a 50% damage to healthy enemies, and then go for the Eldritch Bounty board, place the infusion node into the glyph socket, and also grab the legendary node with your final Paragon points. We don't have to go for the other rare glyph here at the bottom, we don't have the strength, and a single intelligence node will give us more damage anyway. The bottleneck for reaching all these damage values will be 530 intelligence or 540 intelligence for the fifth board. The reason why I didn't actually get any of the slow damage reduction is because chilled enemies are not slowed enemies. Slow is a different value than chill, so we actually go for the dexterity nodes to increase our damage. One thing you could actually use to increase your health is getting the training node here. If this is also amplified by efficiency, you will get over 18% health, and then you could also go for the damage reduction on elites, and I would propose to go this route to get it. To get the necessary points for that, you can remove one of the crowd control nodes and use a direct connection in this position. So I hope you really like this build and you will have a lot of fun with it, and of course don't forget to subscribe, leave me a like, and see you next time.